All right, welcome back, folks. We are continuing our morning with some bill introductions. We are going back to back with Representative Casey of Montpelier. Representative, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Wonderful, wonderful. If you want to join us with council, we will start this process. We're gonna hit H3 first and then slide into H9.
Nice. And I usually don't take notes, but I did today for this. That's great. Well, it's lovely to see everybody. For the record, Connor Casey. Welcome to my district of Montpelier. It's always good to have you folks back here. And
this is Sophie Zadatny. I'm legislative counsel.
Welcome. And this is your first time coming in here in a formal capacity this session, correct?
Yes, yeah. Yes. So I've taken over from Damien Leonard doing labor and employment, military, veterans, Native Americans.
Excellent.
I may be back on other things.
Well, we will see you on other stuff for sure. Yes.
Right. Well, just a bit of background. I worked actually with Representative Hooper for a few years at the Vermont State Employees Association for nearly a decade there. So I spent a lot of time hanging out with frontline state workers, and both these bills pertain to just making Vermont state government work better. The first one up is H3. It's a short form bill which eliminates unnecessary college degrees for state employment. I've been reading a lot of articles around this, just from around the country, and you've seen a number of initiatives with this. What it does, eliminates unnecessary degree requirements for state jobs, focusing instead on skills, experience, and competencies. And the goal is to address persistent staffing shortages. I think we saw last biennium, we were close to 1,000 vacancies in state government. I believe that's come down a little bit, but we still have a huge problem with recruitment. And so I think this creates a more inclusive and effective hiring process as well. So again, hundreds of roles remain unfilled. And I think we all see, like when we pass legislation, this impacts the services. It's really hard to put more of a burden on some of our departments. They're working so hard already, but they're short-staffed, and that's really impacting our policy choices as well. So requiring degrees for jobs where they're not critical, it limits access for talented individuals with relevant experience gained through alternative pathways. Could be like military services, could be like vocational training. You know, there's a lot you don't need college degrees for. And we're seeing this in other states. Maryland was the first state to remove degree requirements for thousands of roles. They did this in 2022, so recently enough. And since then, tons of states have followed there. Pennsylvania had an executive order eliminating degrees for 65,000 positions. And then more recently, Minnesota dropped requirements for 75% of their workforce. What's this done? It's increased applicant diversity, it's improved hiring efficiency, and it's enhanced public perception of government as an accessible employer. You know, like I really want to like put up the sign that says Vermont's open for business and make sure everybody who wants a job in state government doesn't feel deterred from applying here. And I really want to acknowledge some good steps taken by the Scott administration on this already. I don't know if it's a firm policy in place, but if you look at the job sites, we're really doing a much better job leaning on the competencies rather than requiring a college degree, which I find can be a bit elitist sometimes. So I want to give credit to the Department of Human Resources for already taking some steps to do this. However, codifying this is important for a number of reasons, I think. First of all, you do have different administrations, you have different commissioners, you have different people in these roles. We want this to be an ongoing thing and not just with the current administration. And then second, it really is, it's a PR thing, right? By passing this, we should get the press out. And again, say Vermont's open for business. Please apply if you want to work for one of these departments. Because I think a lot of people, there's a chilling effect now, thinking you need more education. So again, why this matters: better recruitment, expanding the pool, equity and inclusion, breaking down barriers, and then fiscal responsibility. I think it's going to reduce delays, operational efficiencies caused by staff shortages. In conclusion, H3, valuing experience and skills over outdated credentials. I come at this with sort of a cloud over me because my father was a college professor. So I grew up on college campuses and I could hear his voice sometimes. As I mentioned, legislative council, former college administrator here. So this was the first bill she got sent. My God.
Oh, the irony.
But I remember my father saying, you know, like a college degree is just a piece of paper on the wall unless you have the skills and experience to complement it. And I remember him saying that. So I carry that as an excuse that I can actually do this. And so let's pass H3, ensure Vermont's workforce reflects the realities of today's job market and stands as a beacon of opportunity for all. So I think it's a quick change we could do that would really benefit state government as a whole.
All right. Anything from council to add?
I would just add that Representative Casey is right. I mean, a number of other states have been moving in this direction. The National Conference of State Legislatures has a fair amount of data on it as well, on the different things. And they've been handled in different ways, whether it's been a governor by executive order or legislatively. The Department of Human Resources is moving in this direction. They do look at every job when it's posted. Like, what are the minimum requirements? Are these still accurate? They're working with, through the governors, there's a governors association that's looking at best practices for this. So I know that it's something that's on their radar that they've been working on, but certainly I would say nationally, this is definitely a trend. Like, do we really need to ask for a journalism degree to deliver newspapers? It's just sometimes it's overkill.
Yeah, no, as somebody who has an associate's degree from a now defunct culinary school, I find your position to be agreeable. So, questions from the table? Representative Nugent.
Thank you. Just curious if you know much about the process of the review, like how states have done that. Do they go job by job and like how long it takes and make those decisions?
Yeah, I haven't actually connected with any other state HRs on this. I imagine that's the case. And one point I want to make is this wouldn't eliminate degrees for all jobs, right? If you're a nurse at the psychiatric hospital up the hill there, you should probably have a nursing degree, right? But the ones that's not necessary, it's not necessary for. So, and again, I think they're doing a good job in Vermont right now. I just think codifying it is important.
Representative Cotton? Or Hooper, whichever one wants to go first.
All right, just get a show onto the degrees. And I don't have a degree at all myself, so I think it's good, but you said there's somewhere roughly 1,000 jobs that are unfilled right now.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know of those 1,000, how many would be opened up, or an idea of how many would be opened up to people like me without a degree that have life experience and could work?
Yeah. I tell you, Representative, I haven't done the analysis on it, but anecdotally, I've spoken to a lot of people who have been discouraged applying for jobs in state government. And sometimes I remember myself, I applied for one about 15 years ago, and you were blocked at the front end there. I thought I had a lot to offer, but because I didn't have a degree in social work or something, I was precluded from applying for this job. And I thought that was an unfortunate thing, because I was kind of passionate about that particular job. So
No, I like the idea. That's why I was wondering, how many people would this help?
yeah, no, sure enough. And I think it could be substantial.
Representative Hooper.
Well, I can speak to that and to the entire thing. I think this bill is something we should move on. When I started with the state, they had a position which was a trainee social worker, where you could come in with 2 years of experience and some academic background, and in 2 years more, you would become a full-fledged social worker. That migrated over the course of my 30-year degree from coming in basically with no social work degree to a master's being required. I would not qualify for a job that I did 30 years today based upon the inflationary aspect of the education requirement. Part of that was because Medicaid started to fund master's programs at UVM. So people get into the job in order to get a master's and move on to do actual social work. But the reality of the situation is what taking people's kids away pretty much had nothing to do with social work. Like corrections that it was social work. So this bill goes to the heart of a problem I think we're having in a lot of job classifications. And goes really to the heart of what this committee should be doing, government operations wise, as opposed to some of the other stuff that we get into.
Representative Morgan?
Yes, just if I missed it, I apologize, but at what layer of government would this fall upon? Would it be the HR folks to determine, to do a scour, if you would, of the whole gamut of the jobs out there? And
It would put it on them and, maybe refine some internal policies as a result of the law that passed.
okay, and then they would, because they'd have to look at, certainly, like you said, there's some things that just demanded, of course, I agree, but certainly, why have a barrier? I certainly agree on some level of that. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, no, when I saw this one come in, this is a conversation in and around the vacancy situation within state government that's been like in my ear from the public and folks within state offices for a while. So I have every intention, if the committee finds it agreeable, to start taking more action on this one.
I also just want to share a point of interest on reading some of the other states that have passed it. In North Carolina, in their executive order, they made a direct connection between military experience, which, is relevant with the bill that they passed. So just a point of interest there.
It is a short form bill. It's going to turn into a lot of words. Yeah. Okay, anyone else?
I think it's a great idea. I think sometimes when you hear it's a government job, people would say, oh, I can't do that, I'm not qualified. Where if they open it up and say, well, you don't have to have your college degree to do that, especially some of the clerking positions in different departments.
17 years in a relevant field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Calvin Coolidge said the world is full of educated derelicts.
There you go. Of a presidential bust out quote. All right. Anything else on this one? All right. Excellent. That was a good talk. Let's move on to H9, please, Representative.
All right. I'm entering this session in the spirit of collaboration. I saw Chief of Staff Gibbs yesterday. He complimented my suit. We did some trust falls. I think there's going to be some harmony this session. I can feel it, So whether you want to cut expenses or if you want to raise taxes, I think we can all agree finding efficiencies in government is an important thing here. And nobody knows what the efficiencies are better than frontline state employees. As such, introducing H9, and this would apply to the judiciary branch and the executive branch, a cost-saving incentive program, which we formerly had in state government, and I can go into that a little bit and why I don't think it worked. But this is another one that's really catching on here. H9 reinstates a program to reward executive and judicial branch employees for cost-saving ideas that are implemented and generate measurable savings. So not like $100 or anything. What it does is the program empowers frontline employees who are uniquely positioned to identify inefficiencies and help them contribute directly to Vermont's fiscal sustainability. Running through it, I don't want to steal Sophie's thunder here, but a 10,000-foot view. It's open to classified, non-management state employees in both branches. Employees would submit their ideas using a standardized form to the Department of Human Resources. Ideas would have to be feasible beyond the scope of standard job expectations. And that's where it might get a little vague and you need to flesh that out a bit, but not already under active study and maintaining the current service quality, right? You wouldn't want someone just saying like, lay off 20 of my coworkers next door here, So incentives, I'm somewhat agnostic on this. I mirrored a couple other states. 25% of the first year's savings, capped at $25,000, paid within 1 full year of implementation, it would be. And then there might be savings in following years there. Rejected suggestions, because you could have a manager who's just going to sour on any of this stuff. So you need a process where you can actually go above your boss here. And in this case, rejected suggestions could be reviewed by a panel, including VSCA representatives, the union who represents these folks, state officials, folks from HR, with final decisions by the state auditor. And that's a new thing from the piece that was repealed there. It used to all be in with the executive branch there, but having the auditor as kind of a neutral party to determine it, I thought might be a bit better. And then accountability, annual reports would summarize the implemented suggestions, savings, and rejected ideas, fostering what I would think transparency and continuing improvement in some of these departments. So historical context, similar programs have been successful in other states. I did find a UVM briefing that I think was maybe included on your attachments there, talking about how it's working in some other states. And there's a variety of ways you can do this. My own personal opinion, I was at VSCA back in the day. I wouldn't have been too hands-on with this, but I don't think we had buy-in from the executive branch at that time. I think it was passed under the Douglas administration and then kind of implemented during the Shumlin administration. And I don't remember HR being too keen as far as, you have to get the word out, you have to promote it, you have to want this, so it has to be a collaboration or it's not going to work. But the idea of cost-saving suggestions programs, I'm going back to military and that's your committee, originated in the Air Force. And that's where it really took hold there. And in the Air Force, I was reading about this, it's called the IDEA program, which awarded personnel for innovative solutions. And it saves millions of dollars annually in the Air Force. So states have sort of adopted that model. Which other states? Washington saved $10.4 million in the first 5 years through its productivity board. It's sort of a slightly different structure. California, just for example, single employee suggestions to reuse materials saved over $14 million. And I've got a list I'm tallying just of different like cost saving suggestions in other states where it's been implemented now. Why now? We've got pretty tight budget constraints. Frontline employees, you have commissioners who come and go, but a lot of these classified employees stay the same and need intimate knowledge of these programs. And I really think a well-promoted, structured program is going to help with morale. They'll feel like their voices are being heard. But if we promote it, you're really going to get some good ideas there. So it's a win-win. Fiscal responsibility with employee engagement, strengthens trust between employees and leadership over here, leadership in the executive branch. It would have measurable benefits for all taxpayers. There's no harm in it. You can't lose money in it. You'd only save money. So I would urge looking at this and working with the administration and HR to get a viable program off the ground. I don't know if I stole all your thunder.
Pretty much.
I'm like a wind-up toy. Once you wind me, I'll keep going.
I would just add this was a rerun of a program that was passed in 2010. It had a built-in repeal last time, so it was a 2-year program, and it went away in 2012. Some of the changes are that this program, as Representative Casey mentioned, would be housed in the State Auditor's Office, not in the Secretary of Administration's office. The state auditor or an appointee would have one of the administration seats on the review panel, wouldn't include a repeal date. And then there was some just technical corrections in this draft, just because the drafting guidelines for legislation has shifted in the past dozen years or so. So some of the cleanup on the technical front, but otherwise it's similar to what was enacted in 2010.
Representative Hooper, Burlington.
Again, a life-based story from DSW at that point. There was a woman that got hired the same time I did. And her husband would drop her off every morning in this beat up old something and smoking up the road go away. And one day he showed up in a classic Corvette. He worked at IBM. He got aggravated because every 2 weeks they would shut down his station to dust to vacuum all the dust out of it, because dust meant heat would build up, which was not a good thing for the machinery. His response was to bring in a furnace filter and put it on the air intake. They adopted that idea. Company Wise gave him a boatload of money for thinking about it, and it's something that industry uses and state government for some reason seems to shy away from. Another good idea from the team at the end of the table.
I got him the Corvette.
Yeah.
That's what you get.
Yeah.
Psychological titles.
Yeah.
56.
All right, anyone else for this one?
Yeah, thank you. This is not what we usually get, so this is, it's good stuff to think about.
You seem like an innovative group, so I know you were the right folks for the job.
Way to keep polishing the pitch.
Yeah.
Representative Coppin.
No, I'd just like to, again, on what Representative Hooper said, is I've seen this in place in the military before. The Marines use a system like this when they're in the field for recovery of vehicles and rebuild and saving and cost savings. And I've seen it with my last employer, where they're looking for cost savings. And the question you said, you know, when you said, why not now? It's why not 4 years ago too?
Yeah, no fair
So,
play. Yeah.
no, I like the idea, and you can't lose because
Can't
you're
lose.
only helping to give someone, put some money in someone's pocket that would have been wasted.
And like, I guess the pushback you would get is they should be doing this anyway. They should be thinking about this, but that's just not human nature, you know, like, you know, I think people need that incentive and, you know, and it's nice to acknowledge people. I think we need to do a better job acknowledging our state employees.
As a business owner, I've applied this practice to my employees for years. You save me money, I give you money. Pretty simple. Spurs thought.
I think the way it's drafted is if it's your job to be looking for those savings, if you don't, then.
Right.
Yeah, no, but you come in
Like-
in the box idea, I was speaking very.
Right,
But
right.
yeah, so. Okay. Anything else from anyone on this one? Nope.
No.
All right. Well, that was a very efficient round. We're a little bit ahead of schedule here.
Lovely to see you folks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So for 11 o'clock, we had scheduled to take up that conversation on the municipal elections bill, the Australian ballot, and we put possible vote there because at the time we were strongly considering moving it as a committee bill for speed. Ledge Council assigned it a bill number, so we're not doing it as a committee bill. So that's kind of one of those scheduling relics where they change quickly. But I did want to open up the conversation briefly to see if anybody, it seemed like smooth testimony yesterday. It seems like everybody's amenable with the language that's coming in. So I do want to move this as fast as possible. So if anybody's got any concerns with it, please speak now or forever hold your peace, or at least against the Senate. Because once we do get the bill, I want to like be aware of text messages. And we had a joint hearing on the floor today, a legislative briefing. We have the Bennington 1 conversation. That's about as dense as, that is going to be the densest testimony we've taken yet. I have a meeting at 3:30. We have floor at 3. So just keep an eye on your phones. If we send a text out to come down here for a vote, I'd like to do that. Representative Waters Evans will be acting as the vote tallier while Representative Boyden is out for surgery. So she'll be the one calling the roll. So that's sort of the administrative pivot with Rep Boyden being out. So that's really what I wanted to leave with that right now. And then if there's any more, we have Representative Lalonde at some point, you'll speak. And again, to talk about H1. And then as we start getting more bills in, we're just going to keep doing this. We know we got a couple of charters hitting us. I know Representative Hooper's sponsoring 1, if not 2 of them. So and there's some robust conversations and opinions in and around the charters. So we'll address that sooner than later. Open table. Anybody got any thoughts, ideas? Representative Morgan.
Still, unless I just missed it, you said still nothing till 11 tomorrow, though? That's still accurate?
Yeah, so tomorrow I was leaving a little open because I wanted to see how the conversation went at work. Thank you.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to punch
Yeah,
on what we were gonna want to talk about next with Bennington One until we heard this piece.
okay.
I have
So
thoughts.
for that.
Yeah.
All right.
Rep Hago, Rep Waters Evans and I kind of like spitballed some ideas. But we're not locked into anything. I wanted to see what happened here before we move to the next bucket of testimony on that. We're still waiting to hear back from Mr. Booth on his availability. He's just trying to navigate life. And he's gonna offer us some windows where he's available. And then so we'll schedule him and Representative Cooper at the same time to speak to the candidates. And then there's a punch list of other people that we're thinking about, but again, not to say it for the fifth time, I wanted to see what happened between 1 and 3.
Yeah, sure, makes sense.
And anybody's thoughts on who to bring in for testimony following this up is absolutely welcome. This is a huge conversation, and I want to make sure we're punching all the boxes before we start even guiding or refining where we're going with this resolution. So.
And I also wanted to remind folks that there is a 345 caucus of the whole on education
Yeah.
finance, if you would like to be listening to that.
Yeah, so I mean, that's up in the House chamber. I mean, that's basically like a less formal joint assembly. And we're getting the governor's proposal on the education crisis around funding and operations. So that's a big meeting at 3:45. So,
For anybody who thinks that's not mandatory, it definitely is.
I mean, it's not mandatory, but like, wow, if you're not there,
You're not
yeah.
there.
It's fair.
Why are you here?
You're not there, you're
Yeah. It's not mandatory, but wow, like evaluate your priorities as a legislator.
There would be a lot of hard questions asked at that point. Why weren't you there
If your
listening?
constituents, that you were like, MIA on that one, man, like,
There would be people who aren't there for reasons that
Yeah,
are
yeah, yeah.
legitimate, so that's not, but.
you shouldn't be chilling in the cafeteria. Yeah.
So on Friday, we don't have anything in committee. We have the house floor at 9:30 and then we have lunch and then nothing till 1 o'clock.
Yeah, and we're gonna fill some stuff in. So that's part of the rollover
Okay,
with
so
this.
Friday morning we'll have some stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And then we're gonna get a couple more bills. We might do some introductions and
I
stuff.
will probably not be here for the afternoon. I have to get to my office.
That's fine.
Do some work.
Yep, no problem. Completely understood.
Got to get the warnings done and all that stuff.
We'll tell Senator Callamore who you are.
No, noted. Yeah, and then so Friday with the yeah, that joint assembly will close out the day. We started putting a couple of things on the Friday morning. We have House floor at 9. This is just like a newer draft that we started working on earlier. We have some folks from a CCTV center coming in. Their operations and budget are relevant to us. Yes. What?
Still online, I don't know if we're.
And then we have State Employees Association coming in just for like an introduction. So we're filling in the morning. I just haven't, yeah,
That's good.
yeah. We just went from chicken scratch to a rough draft type.
Okay.
Yeah.
Small question, I think, but H27 is not on our wall.
Yeah, that's.
It takes a while for bills to get from
But 51 is.
the house floor to here, yeah.
Just curious, because I thought
Which
it was
one's that?
supposed to be here, the little one. The domestic one.
Domestic violence, that should be,
It not referred to
yeah,
judiciary.
that's usually a judiciary thing.
But he's, yeah, introing it here tomorrow.
27 should be H1.
And 27.
Okay, so then there's some kind of nexus to us. Yeah.
Tomorrow at 1:15.
Cooper.
Much committee discussion are we gonna have on the Bennington thing before we see a bill?
It's not a bill, it's a resolution. We draft the resolution as a committee. Yep. We gotta still take in more info. I still would like to get this out in the first, I would like to get the resolution out whatever we decided, however we decide to craft the words aside, but I'm hoping for a timeline of, I've always said like the earliest days of February. So we're gonna finish this week. We're gonna have all of next week as well. I think if we start feeling comfortable with a path, we could get an initial draft being worked up by the end of next week to start noodling on words, but I mean, I'm just getting out in front of my skis right now. We still have a good amount of this. I think a lot of to get.
And what is the exact date, the latest date that we could get that out to have this acted on?
Meeting week.
Well, no, that's not the word I was gonna use. I'll rethink that question.
Okay.
And ask it another time.
Okay. Yeah, no, and I mean, this is a massive decision. This is a deep constitutional cut that we are applying. I think, God, with the committee makeup right now, I think I'm the only one who's even got a remote level of experience with this, with the impeachment investigation committee, with like this type of dense constitutional subject matter. I don't know, unless Rep. Hooper did something in previous incarnations of the Government Operations Committee. But this is a lot of new constitutional directives, a lot of statute that does not get, poked at within our normal day-to-day with this committee. So that's why I'm really being patient with this and giving all of you a lot of time to digest the like dense like legal briefs that we're getting. Because this is, most people who do this stuff have like JDs and stuff.
I guess if you don't mind, what deadlines are you hearing
There's no
out there? Like, what are people asking you for? Is anybody
Nothing.
asking you for anything except for get it done quickly?
No, it's
Because
it's not get it done quickly. It's like get it done as soon as like reasonably possible.
Okay, so I think I'm hearing other conversations, like, why can't your committee get it done quickly? Why can't you get it done now? And I'm explaining that we're going through this process of learning about the Constitution and having various attorneys come in and present various opinions, which is what we're gonna have this afternoon.
Yep.
So I just need to know how to answer this deadline.
What I've been telling people is, we're getting a report. We're going to read the report. We're going to take testimony and we're going to make an informed decision as a committee when we're comfortable doing so.
And that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So now we have other individuals who are asking about this.
Same line.
Outside.
We're targeting to vote
individuals.
something out. We're targeting to vote something out in the earliest days of February.
Okay, and that is pretty much, I think, what I've been saying. So as long as we're all on the same page with that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not rushing this as much as we have to get it. I mean, it's a weird balance, right? We have to get it done sooner than later. But we all need to be comfortable with a decision and we got to understand the information that we're using to guide that decision. So. All right. Well, that was a fun first open table committee discussion. Well done, team.
Yeah.
So with yourselves, like in and around that OPR stuff, we're gonna be getting a lot of information in on that. I've poked at a few things, conversationally with them. So once we start getting those things in, we're gonna be doing a lot of work in and around that. We're gonna have a couple of more, as we start scheduling next week, a couple of more introductions with people. We're gonna bring in the Chair Pepper from the Cannabis Control Board, just to introduce what they do with us. We are jurisdiction over that bucket of subject matter. And then the cannabis industry is holding a cannabis day, like a advocacy group day. Hey man, everybody does it. They're a legal enterprise in the state of Vermont. They are an emerging sector of commerce and agriculture.
We're not part of the agriculture team, only ag, they held the sample.
Go tell that to the growers. Go tell those growers they.
Yeah, we said we're gonna get samples. They said, no, they only.
Oh,
do
they
that
can't
for
do
the
samples. No, if any of those knuckleheads hand out samples, then have a conversation with them.
That's not illegal.
Yes, it is.
You can gift it.
Go read the books. A licensed handing out samples at a marketed event is squishy. at
Oh,
best.
that's right, okay.
Yes, squishy at best. So that is, I believe, next Friday, something like that, 29th maybe. So we have an advocacy. That's probably the first advocacy day that's relevant to something of our jurisdiction.
Which date is, or you?
I got it. It's gonna be, where are we? 29 today. I gotta pull up the email. It's
That's
coming up.
okay.
It's
Yeah, I
coming up.
didn't
Yeah.
remember seeing anything about it.
So that kind of, I think that's kind of tying up the loose ends on our morning right now. Please review the information that we gave you for the 1 o'clock meeting. That's 1 o'clock is the biggest lift this committee has done or will be doing as of yet. So, get your questions ready for the early ones and be ready to ask other questions. And with that, Autumn.